What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and welcome back to the channel. So you've been playing ranked for a while now, perhaps a few days, maybe a few months, but you're still somehow struggling to get out of the silver rank in competitive mode. Well, you're in luck because in this video I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for beginners and intermediate players who are trying to get into Gold Nova and break out of the silver trap in Global Offensive. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First of all, let's talk about aim. If you're constantly dropping 20 to 30 kills a game and somehow you're still in silver, then it's likely you're already on point and on the fast track to leaving silver. But if you're getting under 10 kills a game, then it's time to focus on improvement. The first most basic thing to cover is improving your aim. Now the only way to do this is just through practice, either through playing hundreds of games in casual or competitive mode or just through other means. One tip is to play deathmatch mode where you can respawn after each death, making practicing the recoil patterns and each weapon versus real players a lot easier when you don't just have one life per round like you do in a casual or competitive game. Secondly, you can start to practice using custom maps off the workshop that are specifically designed for aim training. There's a lot of really useful maps to practice with, and I'm going to get into a few of them and show you them. Firstly, there is the Aimbots training map, which is the most popular one out there. Basically, this map spawns you in a small hub in the center where you can pick any weapon from the game to practice with. All of the buttons let you change the behavior of the bots that spawn, such as making them strafe or do other actions, and there's the ability to add cover and objects to block the enemies so you can practice headshots behind cover or make the aim training harder. You can show bullet impacts and other information and visuals to help assist you when playing too. This is a crucial map that all of the best players use, and it's always great to practice on it for a while and play it before each competitive game as a means of warm-up. Secondly, by the same creator, there's a map called Recoil Master Spray Training. This map is designed specifically to practice the spray patterns of the weapons in the game. You can show bullet impacts and bullet time, toggle infinite ammo, different types of targets and color customization, and a whole bunch more. The map helps you practice encountering the recoil with a ghost hair, which lets you follow a dot on the wall face with your own crosshair, basically letting you train your muscle memory to learn the recoil compensation patterns. So it's showing you the recoil pattern and allowing you to trace it like a line, and this is so useful for aim training that you definitely need to use this map because you can physically learn all of the spray patterns by following them, and they'll become ingrained in your mind and you'll remember them. The last aim specific map I will cover is Training Aim CSGO 2. This map is another aim practice map that's really useful. You don't really need to choose between these maps. In fact, I'd recommend to try them all and utilize them all instead of just using one, or I guess you could just find your favorite. It provides targets that you can hit with different levels of distance, and there's different types of training modes to choose from. You can do classic fast aiming, angles and sliding, reflex mode, burst training, and intensive fast aiming for more advanced players. Basically everything in the modes are customizable, and it's exactly like playing those aim training games where they have the different mini games to practice with, but it's all contained in CSGO. Now for some utility maps. The first map I will recommend is Crash's Crosshair Generator. This map is really important if you're still using the default crosshair or having trouble with your current one. Sometimes people's aim isn't at fault, but their crosshair can be. This is the biggest issue for me in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Condition 0. The crosshair is huge and not very customizable, making shots harder to hit. Sometimes my crosshair's on them, but it's a little bit off center to their head because the crosshair spacing is just huge in that game. This can be the same with CSGO, which is why I would recommend this map. You can customize your own crosshair by picking between 12 different colors, change the alpha, spacing, thickness, and various other attributes and properties to create your own personal crosshair. Now, the other great thing is the amount of presets that there are to choose from. So, if you're not very good at making a crosshair, there's many preset crosshairs from streamers and YouTubers and a lot of different real CSGO pro players like Scream. You can use these presets if you're having trouble making your own. This map is definitely a must-have, and using a custom crosshair really helps. Lastly, there is the View Model Generator. This isn't a core map that you need, but it's quite nice to create a little extra space on the screen and to change your weapon position for any given reason. Like the crosshair generator, there's some presets from different different players and YouTubers, and there's also a really cool Quake style FOV preset. You can change the vertical and horizontal position as well as your weapon FOV, which is basically how far it is zoomed in or out, and then you can even share or restore it to the default setting. There are many more things you should take into consideration when aiming. Now, I have multiple videos on how to improve your aim on CSGO with many more tips than in this video that you should definitely take into consideration and check out. I will link all of these different videos below in the description though, so you can check them out after this video if you really need to practice and train your aim. Movement is something else that you need to focus on. It's a very essential mechanic of the game, and peeking at the right times can be super important. Peeking is when you draw away from cover to make an engagement or gain info from an area, but peeking at a poor angle or at a bad time can make you die and lose a round. So for an example, some people when pushing long on A site on the map Dust 2, they hug the wall, which can be used defensively to block vision from the enemy's angle of their advance, whereas those rushing or looking to peek sometimes rush on the wide angle near the car. Usually using an inside lane by hugging a wall when covertly pushing a site or sneaking, you will usually spot an enemy first and see their shoulder or foot, which will give you the advantage, and the chances of them seeing you pushing the site is a lot slimmer. The wide angle usually lets you have control over the angle and lets you push for attack much more effectively, but it leaves you open for counter attack. With practice, you will be able to determine which lane and strategy to choose and which angles are the best to peek and when. Strafing or sidestepping is also crucial when winning an exchange with an enemy. So strafing is when you use the A and D keys to move from side to side, left and right to evade enemy fire. Using a dynamic crosshair is super important for this, so you know when your shot is actually more accurate at times when you temporarily stop or pause in place. This is important because you want to occasionally stop when you strafe to actually shoot a shot, because this is when the shot is the most accurate, so the crosshair will indicate this to you. If you've been playing for a long time, perhaps you've already remembered or memorized the shot accuracy, so you don't need a dynamic crosshair, but it always helps. Moving and then quickly stopping lets you take one accurate shot at the enemy and basically take accurate one taps to hit them with. This is important if you are practicing headshots because you can strafe and sometimes hit a really nice headshot. Try and find cover or hide when you're reloading so you have some downtime where the enemies can't hit you. This is especially important when being on a site defensively against the attackers. You can also use smoke grenades to cover your position whilst you reload, or hide in them if you're solo. Crosshair placement is also something that's very crucial when you're holding an angle. The center of the screen is usually the point in which you will headshot an enemy when your crosshair is on them. Your crosshair should always be centered to prime for a headshot, and if you're on an angle such as short on Dust 2, you should place your crosshair slightly to the right of where the enemy will come, but not too far to the right, giving you just enough time to make a reaction to shoot for the one tap, but not too late or off center that you will make a spray or miss. It's important to always have good crosshair placement to hit one taps and hold the angles more effectively when defending as a CT or a T on a controlled site. When shooting at distances, you should practice tap firing. This is why you should practice hitting headshots and train your aim, and like we covered a little bit earlier, tap firing is what's really important when you strafe fire. Spraying can work very effectively at close range and sometimes mid-range, but when you're aiming from a distance, tap firing and learning to control the shots in rhythm and pace them can be really important. Bursting can also be great mid-range, but long range you should definitely just tap fire because you won't really hit many shots if you're shooting in bursts or full spraying. Now, instead of playing every single map in the competitive map pool, you should practice playing one map and then a few maps only and learn each and every angle and position in each map. Because if you jump into every single random map that you have no clue about and you don't know any of the positions, you'll have trouble when making calls or giving out info or responding to it. For an example, the map Mirage has many different positions such as apartments, aka apps, or palace, connector, short and CT. These are all positions and you need to know every position of a map so you can make a call out to your team via the chat in game to give them information. This can win a lot of rounds. Now you can see the position you are in the map where you are also above the minimap. These positions are mostly the same and very useful to learning the map points. If you're in a competitive game, it can be a little bit hard to pay attention to these positions because you're always focusing on other aspects in the round, but if you play the maps in casual mode first, you can pay more attention to the minimap and learn all the positions of where you are in the map. You also need to understand common terms and phrases. Eco rounds are saving rounds, and this is when players buy only pistols or nothing in order to save money, whereas anti-eco is where you know the enemies will eco, so you buy SMGs or high-powered cheaper weapons to counter them. Counter flashing is throwing a flash after an enemy flash. Wall banging is shooting enemies through a surface like a wall or door. Walling is the phrase for people wall hacking who can see through walls. Stacking is when everyone stays close to defend or rush a site. Rushing, of course, running towards a position in a fast motion without being covert. Boosting is letting teammates jump on you to reach an area that's not reachable solo. Ninja defusing is when someone flashes or drops a smoke grenade and makes a defuse, usually with a defuse kit, whilst enemies are still on or around the site still defending. Buyout is when the last round is taking place, so everyone spends all their money to attempt to win the game. Rotating is when you switch to another place on the map to defend or attack at, and pre-firing is when you shoot before someone peeks or becomes visible when you already expect them to be there. Now, these are all some of the most common terms and phrases, and although it can be a mouthful to listen to, they are really important to know if you're fresh to the game or FPS games. Another big core mechanic are the nades in the game. Each nade has a different purpose from one another, and they're used for different reasons, and learning them will make you win more rounds. I am very guilty of not using nades a lot. Recently I've found more importance in them, and that's definitely something that's improved me playing. There's smoke grenades to block vision from the enemy or to make ninja diffusers, flashbangs to rush the site and block enemy vision for a second or two momentarily, decoys to imitate firing to spoof or trick the enemy radars, molotovs or incendiaries for blocking entrances and exits or used for quick damage or to stop diffusers, and HE nades aka frags for high impact damage. But as well as knowing the types of nades and their uses, you also need to know the nade spots on each map, meaning where you should throw the nades. This is extremely important when using smoke grenades because it really helps when blocking the site or letting you to push. You can learn these different spots by either watching videos or using maps on the workshop which let you practice the spots and show you where they are. Now, I'll make a full video on all of the smoke grenade spots for the most popular maps very soon, so if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that video. But you can definitely check out the workshop maps in the meantime to practice them yourself. Also, you should learn the prices of each and every item in the game, or as many as you can. This will prevent you from attempting to buy an item and then realizing you lack the funds to do so, because you'll always need to prioritize having a Kevlar and helmet over a weapon when you can on some rounds, depending on the situation. And that concludes this guide for CSGO on how to get out of silver for beginners and intermediate silver players. This video was fairly short, although I hope you learned at least one or more tips from the video. Perhaps there are more advanced fundamentals to CSGO, but these tips are all you'll need to get out of silver. My current rank is Master Guardian 2, although I've been Legendary Eagle mainly just from using these tips and a whole lot of hours and practice. So that's proof that you can too, just from these tips alone. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends who play CSGO or who are in silver themselves. Perhaps this will give them some advice or tips to help them get out. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, and check out the other CSGO videos on my channel or in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.